Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Buffalo Talk Center, episode 22. Cal is back with me, Don, and today we are going to talk about week three of the Buffalo Sabres 25-26 season, as well as the recent week eight victory for the Bills over the Carolina Panthers. The Bills romped the Panthers 40-9, but Cal, first off, we will talk about the Sabres. And let's just go through the week, game by game. The Sabres played four times. They lost the Montreal Canadiens, defeated the Detroit Red Wings, and they split between the Toronto Maple Leafs. They beat them on Friday 5-3, lost in overtime in Toronto the following night 4-3. So, Cal, let's start off with that Montreal game. I streamed that, so I know exactly how I feel about the performance. I want to get your point of view overall as the Sabres' performance in that game.
Yeah, that Montreal game, probably the worst that they played this in the segment that we're going to be talking about. I thought they came out super slow. They had a terrible first period, and that really held them back. They had a hard fight the rest of the game, but just couldn't recover from that slow start. When you're playing a team like Montreal, you got to have your faster guys in the lineup. And unfortunately, between injury news and the wrong decisions coaching, maybe they didn't have the fastest group they could have had out there against Montreal. So was not expecting a win in that game, and they certainly didn't get it. At the end of the day, they did recover later on, and we'll talk about that later on in the week. But yeah, not a great start to this segment we're going to be talking about against Montreal, but they showed some promise at the end of that game, and I think that carried over.
Absolutely. Yuri Kulik got a second goal of the season, his first real goal against an NHL goalie. And I think that this performance was sort of a launching pad game for him, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Since that game, since that, like you said, first real goal, we're not counting the empty netter that he got because that did nothing for his confidence. But this goal did. You can tell he's actively looking to shoot the puck, which is his biggest asset, I would say, and I think a lot of people would agree with that, right? Yuri Kulik, his shot is completely epic. One of the best shots on the team, besides Tage, of course. But Yuri Kulik, when he has the puck on his stick, much like a guy like Jack Quinn, you got to be looking to shoot the puck, and Yuri Kulik has been doing that as of recent, and it's been working. Whether it's going in the back of the net or forcing a rebound in front of the net with chaos going on in front of the net, that's exactly what you want to see from this kid, and he's shown that he has a very high ceiling. Has yet to put it all together with the Sabres, but this could be the season where he kind of takes that breakout step.
Well, and he's sort of navigated quite successfully, I might add, some early season adversity. Remember, he was on the fifth line during practices towards the tail end of that really horrible beginning of the season. But ever since then, Lindy has entrusted him with the first line center role, with Josh Norris going down and Ryan McLeod clearly not being able to fill that void. I think Yuri Kulik has been phenomenal over this most recent week, kind of settling in and getting used to the speed of the game again.
Yeah, and he stepped up good, like you said. And again, it's a tough situation to be in. He gets propelled from what he thought he was going to be, maybe the third line center this year. All of a sudden, Josh Norris goes down. He's bumped up to the first line center. That's a big shock. You got to line up against usually the other team's best faceoff guy in that situation as well. Isn't going to go so well to start, but I think he's rebounded pretty well. And like you said, Ryan McLeod has not been able to fill that void. I think he's had a little bit of a disappointing season, at least position wise. He still looks good, and he's definitely a good asset to have on this team. I'm not saying that he's not, but a little bit of a slow start for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Another big point from this Montreal loss was that Tyson Kozak and overall the fourth line, they've rebounded quite nicely, much like the rest of the team. I think the fourth line has looked pretty decent over this third week.
Yeah, and Kozak on the IR now, so that's unfortunate news. But yeah, I feel like the fourth line, it doesn't matter who they plug in there. Josh Dunn, not an NHL player, I hate to say it, but even he has looked okay on that fourth line. They're starting to use their body more. If you're using them in the right situations, and I don't really love that Lindy Ruff shoots them out there after a goal and kills all the momentum, vice versa. I don't love them getting as much ice time as they have, but if they're going out there a little bit, using the body, then going right back to the bench, that's exactly what you want to see from your fourth line. And I think that last game, I don't want to jump ahead, but that the series against the Leafs, I think that fourth line really stepped up, and they actually got some zone time and started to dominate the Leafs first two lines in their own zone. So that was nice to see.
Absolutely. Now, this Montreal loss was the worst game by far of the season for Jason Zucker. He had two bad giveaways, each of them leading to goals, and he did get benched in the third period. But as we now transition into that Detroit game, how do you think Jason Zucker has reacted to that terrible game in Montreal?
Yeah, I think Jason Zucker, like the veteran that he is, he's going to have a bad game, but he bounced right back. He looks not as good as last season, but we can't expect him to be the same player he was last season. You could argue he was a top 3 player on the team last season versus expectations, and I think you have a fair point. This season, not so much. Hasn't really got everything going. He has the goals. If you look at his stats, it looks good, but playmaking wise, in front of the net, hasn't been the same level that we saw from last season, but I think he's certainly taken a step higher. I was at this Detroit game. This is, the big Caden Ellis game. Great debut for him, and not didn't even face a shot until like I don't know, like maybe 9-10 minutes into the game. But boy, oh boy, did he look rough with the puck. Every power play got shot back down to him. It was jumping on his stick. Me and Jaden looked at each other like, oh boy, this is going to be a long game. But he settled in nicely, and that was a great game. Sabres started to play a little bit better. The power play started to continue the momentum that they seem to find, and then it goes away, and we'll see what the power play ends up looking like at the end of the year. But certainly a better game and a good step in the right direction that they would continue later on in the week.
Well, Colton Ellis talked about post game with the TNT crew about how his morning jitters were off the charts. So I'm not at all surprised that he performed that way, especially in the beginning of that. I actually missed the first half of that first period. I was at an intramural soccer game. I played goalie, by the way. Didn't go terribly. Did not go terribly, okay?
You'll love
So
to see it.
so I had my breakout in goalie. Colton Ellis also had his breakout at the goaltender position that night. And interestingly, Colton Ellis is still on this team, Cal. The Sabres are currently carrying 3 goaltenders. The good old 3 goalie rotation is back in full swing. We'll get to UPL later, but it's him, Colton Ellis, and Alex Lyon. They are each apparently rotating games. Lindy Ruff says there is a plan. Do you think this is going to be a winning strategy now? And what are the similarities and differences between this rotation plan and the one we saw a couple years ago with Anderson, Comrie, and UPL?
Yeah, certainly a better situation, right? This is almost a good problem instead of the bad problem it was a year ago. But what we can say is that UPL is the clear last place right now. And we'll talk in a little bit about his performance against the Leafs, but it was not good whatsoever. Ellis, he's one NHL game in. And I see a lot of people complaining, why is UPL in this lineup? Just ride with Lyon and Ellis. I agree that Lyon should be playing 80 to 90% of the games right now. He is on fire. He's the only reason this team is where they are right now. He has looked fantastic. Definitely the MVP of the season so far. With that being said, you can't overuse him early on in the season because you're going to need him later in the year. Colton Ellis, he has one game. If Colton Ellis goes out there and lets in 6 goals, because that very well could happen in his next start, you're going to want a guy like UPL or a Devin Levi to come in and at least not be terrible. We don't know if Colton Ellis is going to be able to replicate that start over and over again. Detroit, they had a bad game against Buffalo. Let's face it. He made a lot of good saves, but that was not the same Detroit team that has won multiple games this season. The Red Wings went on to lose 7-1 to the Islanders the night after they played the Sabres. Now they
Yeah.
look good again, but those 2 games they were off pace. They weren't at their full. So I don't want to put it as an outlier by any means, but we can't look at Ellis one game and say this is the greatest goalie ever. Why are we bringing UPL back up? With that being said, why do you call UPL up so quick when you could have left him down there 2-3 games? That's a fair point, but they did say Ellis woke up. His back was a little tight, wasn't able to go. That's why UPL ended up getting the start. Whatever, is what it is.
Colton was still feeling the effects of carrying the Sabres through that game. It's
Yeah.
okay. You can just say it like that. We don't have to be technical. But Cal, the other big thing from that Detroit victory was not only Shaquille O'Neal saying Tyson Koshak in the intermission report, which is a hilarious clip, by the way, but also Jack Quinn. Is Jack Quinn back? He had a goal, 2 assists for 3 points. He's up to 6 points on the season. His skating looks better. His puck handling skills are still kind of rough. I mean, one of his assists was him trying to do too much with the puck, fumbling it, and it bouncing right to Tyson Koshak, net front presence, baby. But again, is Jack Quinn back?
I would say Jack Quinn has kind of established himself as a guy who is a pure goal scorer and maybe sets up once in a while, and we have to accept that. We cannot expect Jack Quinn to go into the corners and control the puck and come out of puck battles with the puck. We can't expect Jack Quinn to win defensive battles. He's not that kind of guy. Get over it. It is what it is. We know what he is now, right? He has to use his best asset, which is his shot. He didn't do that in overtime against the Leafs. He has a kind of a pattern of this where he misses open chances and he doesn't take the chances that are given to him. But we know what we got with Jack. Use his abilities. He is a heck of a player, and we just kind of got to accept that.
Absolutely. But I think on a positive note, he's looked infinitely better than last year. Maybe Kevin Adams picked the right option and re-signing him on a short-term bridge contract because so far Jack Quinn is hungry. He's looking for that. He's actually going to the net. He's taking his shots, and it's clear that he is in far better physical shape now than when he came back at the beginning of last year when the Sabres all went to Prague and laid a couple of major eggs. Advancing forward, we begin to look at the first of the two Sabres back-to-back games against the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Sabres went 3 for 4 in terms of points. They did pick up the victory on Friday night on ESPN Plus. Kale, were you able to check it out, or I don't know what's the deal for the in-market viewers? Do you guys are able to watch it even though it's
Yeah,
on? Okay.
I went back and kind of watched it, dissected that game a little bit, and it looked like your typical Sabres Leafs game, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, all offense, right? Matthias Samuelsson, I think
Whew.
he has been great this year. I can't believe it. Scratch those 2 goals off, right? Like I don't even care that he scored twice. Even if he didn't, he still looked very good defensively, and he's joining the offense. He's looked great. I gotta say, I'll say it in my Sabres video coming out later today. Connor Timmins starting to grow on me just a little bit. He's blocking shots. I still don't think he's that great of a player, but he's no longer the worst guy on the ice. I'll give him that. And I think overall the Sabres, they played great in that game. They gave the Leafs too many opportunities. That late penalty, and lucky Tuck was able to get the shorthanded goal, but too many opportunities for the Leafs in that game. But that was a big 2 points, especially what happened the night after, and to walk out of that series with 3 out of 4 points. You got to love it. You got to take it. And at the end of the day, the Sabres find themselves in the conversation of the playoff mix. And that's all they got to do for the remainder of the season. Stay in that conversation, stay in that mix, and maybe get to the trade deadline and finally go for it and pick up a guy that can get you over that playoff line.
Mhm.
They've certainly rebounded from going 0-3 to start the season, and now we just kind of got to continue to play how we are. 4-2 the rest of the way. 4-2, 4-2, maybe 3-2, 3-2. Take it in chunks, but stay over that 500 mark from here on out.
Well, Lindy's talked about getting 6 points out of every 10. And if we just look at this week, or if we look at this most recent set, I think they're at 5 points, and their final game of this next 5 game segment concludes tomorrow against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So if the Sabres can find themselves in 7 points, you put yourself ahead of the curve a little bit. Now they did really kill themselves with that 0-3 start, but I mean, the second week of the year they looked improved. The third week of the year they look even better. And going back to the first Toronto game, that fifth goal for the Sabres was set up by your goalie making a huge save. T.S. Michelli was in all alone in front, was right at the back door, and Alex Lyon, the Lion King, he was able to make that save. And that's something that we haven't seen a Sabres goalie do since UPL had his half-season breakout a few years ago.
Yeah, Alex Lyon has been, like I said, the MVP of the team. And how many times have we seen that this year? Somebody left in all alone, a breakaway, some cross crease play, and Alex Lyon is just a brick wall back there. The goals he's let in have either been just nobody stopping that, or just bad luck, right? Like that breakaway with Nylander where it gets between his legs, it just trickles in, almost stopped it. You can't have any complaints about Alex Lyon, especially after watching UL do his same old, where he's way out of position on every high danger chance. Alex Lyon has been a godsend to this team, and the only issue with Alex Lyon in this goaltender situation, much like Colton Ellis, we don't know if he can sustain this. He hasn't done it in his NHL career, right? He has had stretches where he looks like this, and then he has stretches where he's a really bad goalie. So we don't know if he can continue this pace, and that is much the reason why the Sabres haven't traded away a goalie yet, and they are willing to keep 3 because they don't know what they have with Lyon. It looks really good right now, but in 2 weeks and in 10 games time, double the amount of games he plays, maybe we go back to thinking, oh, maybe our future is UPL and Levi. I hope not for Lyon's sake, but it very well could go in that direction. So I think we're overreacting a little bit, and I don't mean me and you. I mean just Sabres, social media in general, about this goalie situation. Keep in mind, it was UPL's first game back. Do I think he should touch the ice until one of the other two has a bad game again? No, not at all. Those other two should just ride it out until one of them implodes and you have to use a guy like UPL. But yeah, Alex Lyon's been great and has been the biggest factor in the Sabres winning and in that Leafs game as well.
Absolutely. Now you alluded to it a bunch of times, but here we go. UPL Masterclass. This was the final game of the Sabres week. They lost 4-3 to the Maple Leafs in overtime. And my God, we got to see the full Luukkonen experience once again. The third and fourth goals, neither of them should have been going in if you're UPL. This was probably the first game of the season where I'd say a Sabres goalie has lost them the game. And of course, Luukkonen has had some major questions going into it, and he certainly did not answer anything with his performance, his first performance of the year. Now, folks, is Cal is oh no, Cal is back. There he is.
I think we're good. Yep.
But I was talking about UPL, and
Yep.
just take it away, Cal. This is your rant. You have the floor,
Okay.
sir.
All right. I heard most of what you said. It was just frozen on my screen visually. But yeah, like you said, the third and fourth goal, absolutely unacceptable. Joshua on the Leafs got that third goal, and that was as bad as it gets. And you could tell the Sabres were starting to play not to lose, and they were every offensive chance they got in that game, they just dumped it away and played defensively. Joshua gets in the zone, does a quick spin around pass, and UPL way out of his net, stabs at it with his glove like he always does from long distance. And it just so slowly goes by, and you could just tell like there's no way that's going in, right? And sure enough, beats them glove side. Absolutely embarrassing. Can't let that happen. The overtime goal, was he way out of position? Yes, but what the I mean, I'm not blaming that overtime period on UPL. How many chances did the Sabres have? Dowling, three of them. Owen Power one. Jack Quinn one. They didn't score. So at the end of the day, you can't give Tavares a breakaway and expect to save after you blew four opportunities. So again, should UPL have made that save? He could have been in better position. I'm not going to tell you he should save Tavares on a breakaway every single time because that would just be impossible. But I'm more mad at the Sabres offense and defense in that overtime period, especially Dowling. A couple chances, just gave the puck away when he could have recycled. And I forget who had it along the boards. The Sabres were going off for a change, and they just gave the puck to the Leafs. I don't know exactly what was going on there, but Sabres could easily maintain the puck for at least the first 3 minutes of that overtime period. They gave it away, got the odd man rush back the other way. Owen Power, puck slipped off his stick after Jack Quinn should have scored or should have shot the puck.
Shot.
Shoot the puck when you have 2-on-1s in overtime. It gives you a rebound when you got a guy crashing. And then they go back the other way. And I think it was Tage Thompson that tried to stop Tavares. I don't want to say lazily because I think he was dead tired at the time and just that was his last gasp, right? A dive, try to stop Tavares because if he chased him down, Tavares would have walked away from him on the breakaway.
But you
Just an
didn't
ugly
anyways.
overtime period. I'm glad they came away with a point though because that final 5 minutes, it felt like the Leafs had another goal coming for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a point that the Sabres would not be getting last season. Not at all.
No.
They would have found a way to lose that game in regulation. There would be an epic third period collapse. And I gotta say, through the first 3 weeks of this year, we haven't seen any of that. Even I know they lost the whole first week. They went 0 for 3, but when they've started winning here over the last two, the Sabres have really clamped it down the third period and they've done pretty decently. So we didn't really see any of that collapse against the Leafs or the Red Wings at all, and there certainly were chances for them, but you're absolutely right. That overtime really stings. I hope that team rinses and repeats and forgets, right? They keep doing what they're doing. They just got to put the puck in the net. At the end of the day, it's so simple. Just convert your chances. And I think that's a good learning lesson for Jack Quinn. Not learning,
Yeah.
that's not a good excuse, but in terms of short-term memory, Jack Quinn can remember, hey, if I have another opportunity on a 2-on-1 in overtime here, coming up soon, I'm going to shoot the puck. No doubt about it. I am shooting the puck. All right? Unless my guy is wide open back door and he can easily score, which wasn't the case here, then I'm going to shoot the puck. I'm going to get greedy. And I think that this team needs to do a little bit more of that. Get a greedy mindset. Doesn't have to be that perfect pass. Doesn't have to be that perfect deke. Just get the puck on the net. And especially if you're Owen Power, do not go for that deke because the puck will roll off your stick. You are not a natural born goal scorer. Please just get it to the net. There's no one behind you. So I think that's it for the Sabres half. Let's get into the Bills now. They beat the Carolina Panthers 40-9. And on the score sheet, it was pretty dominant, but Cal, there were some flaws in this performance. This is probably the weakest 31-point victory you can get for a team in the NFL. So let's just start off with the offense. And it's the same old, right? Josh Allen in
Yep.
the pass attack looks broken still. They had a whole bye week to fix this, and the same problems remain. Khalil Shakir was the lone bright spot. He had 6 receptions for 88 yards and a touchdown. But let's talk about Keon Coleman's performance. He's been under some heavy scrutiny. And what's your take on the whole Coleman situation?
Yeah, Coleman had some garbage time, I guess, receptions, got open in zone coverage, but he kind of fits in the mold of everyone besides Shakir at the wide receiver position. They just don't get open. I mean, every single third and long or third and even third and short, when Allen drops back and he runs to the left, he runs to the right, he spin moves, he dekes three guys, somebody grabs his jersey, he gets away from him. By the time that all happens, our receivers are still standing still downfield. It's that Joe Brady offense where the guys run to a spot, then they stop, and if they're not open, they don't continue to try to get open. Every week we watch football games and we see the worst of the worst quarterbacks make one move and they buy that extra second and somebody's open downfield. We got a guy getting 15 seconds extra time in the backfield and nobody can get open for him. How many times have we seen, again, the Bills dominated this game. They won by a ton of points, but Josh Allen just like frustrated every drive, it seemed, because nobody would get open for him. Now, all hail James Cook. We'll talk about him next, I'm sure. Heck of a day from him. And if you're a Joe Brady fan, you're saying, how could you complain? He kept giving him the ball. He kept scoring. Why would you throw the ball when you got a running back performing like that? And I agree to an extent in this game, right? Like it's the Carolina Panthers, and if they have one strength on defense, it's home and some of that secondary. So sure, run it probably to the opposite side of they're two defensive tackles that are decent enough. But if you could run it outside, which they did the whole time, just kind of pitch left, pitch right, they can't stop it, right? They're not a very good football team, and the Bills were able to exploit their weaknesses. Probably, in fact, with that bye week, they game plan to just kind of spam the same four plays over and over again. You could get away with that against the Panthers, but I guarantee you they run the same stupid game plan going in next week against the Chiefs, and Spagnuolo is going to exploit that offense if they don't change something up. So it works against a bad team. It certainly ain't going to work against Andy Reid and Spags.
Absolutely. I mean, let me just go down. So I mentioned Shakir, 88 yards. Keon Coleman, 3 receptions, 30 yards. Two of those came in deep into the third quarter when the game was already done. Dalton Kincaid only had that one big third down reception. So for the Bills, the pass attack continues to struggle. They just do not, like you said, they don't have a separator. No one's going to get down the field. We don't have a Stephon Diggs. When Josh Allen was scrambling, Stephon would always find a way to get open. He did it against Buffalo in week 5 a few weeks ago. So if you're Brandon Beane, do not go on another radio show and tell us fans what we're seeing. We clearly can watch. We are seeing the games, and what we are witnessing is some catastrophic wide receiver play. The wide receivers were certainly not good enough for Josh Allen against the Falcons or the Patriots, two semi-decent teams. I mean, the Falcons, not so much. They just got killed today by the Dolphins, or yesterday by the
Yeah.
Dolphins. Um, what a blown opportunity. But anyways, this wide receiver core is not good enough. And if you're Brandon Beane, this remains your number one trading priority, okay? Not safety, not D tackle, and for reasons we'll get to in a second. It's got to be wide receivers. But let's briefly talk about James Cook. He had a great day. Only a 216 total rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, James Cook absolutely dominated like he has been all season long when they've given him the opportunity to. I'd like for them to get him in the passing game. A guy he could really be your MVP if you got him going with not only screenplays, because screenplays don't seem to work for the Bills that they did against the Panthers, but scratch that because it's the Panthers. Get him in the middle of the field on those little 5 yard, and I'm the quick out guy. Get him the ball. He's dangerous in space. He's like a guy like Shakir, but instead of passing it to the sideline with Shakir, 5 yards down the field to Cook. It's the same sort of play. It's kind of like your outlet option if no one's open, which no one gets open on this team. And like you said, wide receiver, please get a receiver. I don't care if it's Raheed Shaheed or a guy like Chris Olave or Jalen Waddle. I don't care what end of the spectrum. You need somebody. You absolutely need somebody because if Keon Coleman or Shakir gets hurt, and I'm left to watch one of those other two and Elijah Moore and Curtis Samuel, who they don't use, this offense is going nowhere against a team that could get to the quarterback quick. So I know we're running out of time here, so I know you want to get to the defense. So I'll stop talking about receiver there. We'll probably have a video about that before the deadline.
Oh, good. Thanks, Cal. Yeah, Zoom doesn't want to give us more time. We need more time, damn it. I do want to close this episode out by talking about the Bills defense.
Mhm.
Really interesting development, Cal. Sean McDermott was calling plays with Bobby Babbage today. I mean, we could
Yes.
tell. We could tell, giving up only
Yeah.
9 points, right? The defense looking far more aggressive than they have. And do we think this is a soft benching of Bobby Babbage? Is Sean McDermott waving the white flag on him as a defensive coordinator?
I think we saw this with Leslie Frazier a couple of times, right? It would be the Bills defense starts to look pretty bad, and then all of a sudden, one game they look really good, right? And he gets asked about it, and Sean McDermott goes, "Oh yeah, I'm calling plays too." I'm not the biggest Sean McDermott fan. I think he's terrible at time management. I think he's a terrible head coach, and when it comes down to the big game, but he's one heck of a defensive coordinator. I'll give him that. And whenever he's the one calling the plays on defense, it seems everything goes smoothly. So I'd love it if he would continue calling the plays. I think that's and we know that's his strongest, asset. He's got to stop sticking his nose in the offense though, because I think partially the kind of 3 yards up the field every play is all him. But I think he's done a great job calling plays, and it's against the Panthers. I get it. And you could kind of cheat towards the run game on with them because their pass game is so weak, especially with Andy Dalton. So I don't know if we could really value this game at the same level as an average NFL game, but they certainly look good. And those two acquisitions, more so Hoy, look phenomenal. I think he brought a new kind of spark to that defensive line and one less, bottom guy that you got to rotate in there. You put him in there, all of a sudden Rousseau gets going. Epps had a big day. Ed Oliver had a big day before he got injured for the rest of the season, probably with a bicep injury, which sucks. But Ogunjobi time, I guess. So yeah, I think the defense looked good. Harrison had a nice tackle. Poyer looked good, I think, at safety, which is good. And the pass defense still playing zone, still giving up some deeper passes, but it wasn't really the meat and potatoes part of the game where I care too much about it. Kind of a schematic give up than a disconfiguration on the defense.
Absolutely. You mentioned, and this is the last thing we'll talk about here today, Ed
Mm-hmm.
Oliver. It looks like his season is done. Devastating injury here for Buffalo. And theoretically, this could mean that Sean McDermott should trade for a defensive tackle. But with the return of Larry Ogunjobi and Deonte Walker having as good of a rookie season as you can ask for from him, in terms of trade priorities, if the right deal comes about, maybe. But is this a bigger concern for the Bills than safety or receiver right now? Not particularly. But man, losing Ed Oliver for 3 months, probably until if the Bills make it to the AFC Championship game, that is a killer injury.
Yeah, and shout out Thigh Doctor on X. He gave his prognosis of this injury. He said he expects Ed Oliver to maybe be back by a divisional playoff game wearing the same brace that Milano wore last season. And speaking of Milano, will he be back next week against the Chiefs? Who knows? That's my favorite game of the week. Will Milano play? If so, how much of the game? You got to hope because he's a guy who can be good and he's getting a little older, but when he's on, he is one of the best linebackers in the league. And seeing his career just stumble and bumble to injuries has really, really done its toll on me. And I don't want to give up on him. I know a lot of people have already wanted him shipped out. One more chance. One more chance. He's going to come back. This isn't a long term one, and we'll see what he can do because I think he can really help this defense in the future.
Over the last 3 seasons, Matt Milano has played 11 games.
Mhm.
So, not very good from him. And best wishes to Ed Oliver. Hopefully, he recovers quite nicely. I've been seeing some tweets online about how they're blaming Ed Oliver for this. If you look at the replay of what injured him, I don't really know what he could have done differently. He's falling down. He's got a 300-pound man right on top of him.
Yeah.
Pause. And his arm, he just goes down. It's a normal, he's going down with his arm to brace for the impact with the turf. And he just gets his arm caught up a little funny, and well, just like that, your season is done. So, really unfortunate injury for Ed Oliver. Improved day overall, though, for the Bills' defense against the Panthers. Offense, still some things to work on. As for the Sabres, we'll keep looking forward. Hopefully, they can build off of their 500 record. Who would have thought we'd be saying that at the end of this month after what we saw right out the gates? But both teams trending up, very lukewarmy though, so we'll see. Tepid excitement for both franchises at the moment. Cal, anything else you would like to say before we sign off?
I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, good week for Buffalo sports. Let's keep it rolling. They got a big week coming up. We got the Chiefs next week. That's a huge week at 500 or above. Big week.
Absolutely. We'll see. Chiefs next week, next Sunday, and the Bills or the Sabres open this next week against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So we shall see how that goes. But anyways, folks, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. This is Ivan Don. This was Cal. This here's Buffalo Talk Center, episode 22. We'll see you next week. Adios.